Good morning. Our scripture reading this morning is from the book of Luke, Luke chapter 6, verses 12 to 19. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he designated apostles: Simon, whom he named Peter, his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas, son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. He went down with them and stood on a level place. A large crowd of his disciples was there, and a great number of people from all over Judea, from Jerusalem, and from the coast of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. Those troubled by evil spirits were cured, and the people all tried to touch him, because power was coming from him and healing them all.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you. Can I just Can I just give my own thanks to Martin? I think Martin, where are you? You were sitting here a second ago. I think there's a vicar in you. For those who don't know what a vicar is, it's a Church of England word meaning pastor, like minister. Martin was the only member of the leadership team that warranted his own folder called Martin's Ideas. And we would often sit and dream and talk and scheme on behalf of the kingdom of God about what could be. And I know, I just know that God has not taken you've not taken your foot off the gas pedal, but God is not done with my folder and your ideas and your heart for him. So it is really, really good to be back today. We've been around the summer, but we've had some time away. And as a family, we took some time off at the end of July, and we went to visit some family in the States that we didn't have a chance to see for 5 years, which is quite a long time when, like many of us, you kind of factor in COVID and the interruptions, and then just life gets in the way. It was a beautiful time of being loved by family, running from air-conditioned car to air-conditioned room, house to air-conditioned, because it was hot. And then a couple of weeks ago, Fee and I were asked to go and minister at Barnabas Family Ministries, where we just had a terrific time of being poured into spiritually. Martin said it, so often serving is, you think it's giving out, but so often it's you receive way more than you ever do by giving out. And that was just so powerful for Fee and I. And if you don't know where Keats Island is, we're keeping it a secret so that you all don't go. That's basically the idea. But we just loved our time, blessed as it has been. And I don't know how your summer's been. I know for some of you, you've been away. I actually know right through September, this is a peninsula thing, that loads, if you're new to the area, everyone leaves in September because it's cheaper to travel. And so I know of like 3 of the leadership team, I think, are traveling, and lots of others. So if you're watching online, wherever you are, I just want to warmly welcome everyone who's online as well as joining us here today in person. But it is good to be back together. I know it can kind of cause a little bit of nervousness when you walk in the church doors and you might be new. You might not know anyone. So I just want you to be at peace. We're not that weird. A little, but not that much. And then for some of you who've been coming a long time, you saw a television telling you that we're planning to go to 2 services. And instantly you reacted. I can't believe we're doing it. Well, as has been shown this morning, did you see the number of kids and youth that departed? It seems to be that God is doing something in his church, this church, that we're going to respond to in October 1st by moving to 2 services, 9 a.m. and 10:45. There's a big plan that's in place. We've been kind of holding off implementing it, being official about it. I reckon if you give us another week or so, will be able to confirm with you exactly the details of that. But it's amazing to be part of something that God is doing. Here on the peninsula 2 years ago, when Fee and I, when we showed up in the area, I honestly would have never thought this would have happened. We said recently that a quarter of you have been here for more than 3 years. So that's huge for any church. That only a quarter of the church has been there for more than 3 years. When we did our survey back in the spring, that was one of the facts that really took us as leadership team back. We kind of knew, but just to kind of pause and go, yeah, that's maybe why I don't feel like at home as much. I love, Robin, that you were talking about coming home. Because for some of us, there's this feeling of it maybe not feeling like the home it once was. And a few folk have talked to me and other leadership team members, and there's kind of like, I love that it's happening, but at the same time, I miss what was. And I think what we have to realize, home is not this building. It's not even primarily this people. Home is first and foremost our relationship and our longing and our being with Jesus. And I think for me, it's best exampled when let's stretch things a little bit and let's see how home feels, maybe by going to 2 services, or we've taken some much needed time off this summer. And it's been an amazing gift for Fee and I to have been released by you as a church to rest properly, to have extended Sabbath over the summer. I only took 3 or 4 weeks off, but it may feel like I've not been preaching much. But to have the time has been so good, because we're sensing a lot is coming this fall, a lot is coming this year. And I'm so grateful for everyone who has stepped up to share. So I'm firstly thankful to God that there is this time of refreshment for us. I'm thankful to everyone who spoke this summer. You know, one of the maybe the unique things about this place, we're actually really committed to raising up a variety. We're committed to celebrating gifting that's there already, and we're committed to raising up gifting that we want people to be using in the life of the church. And that's maybe best exampled over the summer months when I spoke a couple of times, and there was some fantastic people who shared. But that's one of the things about our church. We don't want kids and youth just to be looked after by the experts. We want people who love our kids and youth to be hanging out, spending time with our kids and youth. We don't always want to defer to staff and leadership team to do everything, because it would just dry up your giftedness. And we want people to feel that you're invited to participate. And we've said this really for me now for 2 years. That includes you if you're new, and that includes you if you've been here for a while. So there's lots to do. There's lots. I mean, if you look at this window, can anyone notice there's a big missing thing here? We've been trying to hint for a while that we taught on the Apostles' Creed a couple of years ago, and then Jill Rashley did some amazing artwork to accompany the Apostles' Creed. But the sun beats on that window so hard that it became like the waves of the ocean. And we're looking for someone who's like, I need a project. I'm sitting at home and I'm not doing much. We need someone to take the artwork, and so we can frame it and put it back up there. Why? Not because it's pretty, because it reminds us as a church, there's certain things we all agree on together. There's certain things we're like, although amidst all the change, there's things that really do unite us. And our beliefs expressed in the Apostles' Creed is one of them. And unfortunately, we now have a lovely grey blind. So if you're feeling your heartstrings, I'm doing my best to make you feel a little bit, okay, I'll do it, Craig. If someone has any artistic craft ability, this is a great project for you. But this is just an example. There's so many little things that create a whole. And so you might be serving in an area or keen to serve in an area, and you feel it's maybe really insignificant. But you know what? When that thing goes towards the whole, That's what Jesus looks at and says, it's not the church. He looks at it and says, that's my body, that's my people, and they're journeying together. So, vision and mission. When we sent the email out this week, we said we're going to be talking a bit about the vision and the mission. There's certain things as a church, as a leadership team, we're going, and a staff team, we're saying, we probably need some roots and some rhythms that really help us still feel like one people with all the change, all the new faces, new ministry starting. And one of those rhythms we want to lean into twice a year is just coming back to our vision and our mission. Why? Because we're forgetful, but there's just lots of new folk. And so what we don't want to do is assume, I think about this stuff a lot. I draw triangles and try to get people to understand what we're doing. And, but for some of you last heard it in April or May, I think it was. And that's a long time. That's before the summer. That's like a long time ago. So as a leadership team and staff, we feel bringing a rhythm of regularly talking about our vision and mission, it just kind of helps us with all the things we could do, all the directions we could go. These are the things that we feel God is calling us as a people on the peninsula in 2023 to focus on and do. And I don't know we're going to riskily try some audience participation, some congregation participation. Who can remember what our vision statement is? I'll start with the first word, Jesus. And leadership team and staff. Okay, so I'll help you. So Jesus. Jesus, life expressed. Almost. So Jesus' life expressed. We could say on the peninsula, but so that his love. Last bit. Transforms lives. We've had this for a couple of years now, maybe 18 months, a bit more. Jesus' life expressed so that his love transforms lives. That's why we're here. That's why we exist as a church. Because as we follow Jesus' life, as we express his life, his words, his works, his way, people's lives, it will be transformed because as we express his life, we're just showing people his love. And people's lives will be transformed. Our lives will be transformed, but so will our neighbors and our friends and our sons and daughters and our parents and even the people that we find hard to love. Rebecca has read for us from Luke 6:12-19, which really helps us frame what does Jesus' life look like. And if you're all like the teachers in you, we probably need to do this, right? Really? Who didn't hear anything I said for the last minute? Here we go. We'll just draw special attention to this for all those. Okay, it's Jesus' life. It's not my life. It's certainly not my life. We're not wanting to express any one person over another. We're wanting to express Jesus' life. But what does his life look like? What does it contain? And we've revisited this passage in Luke a couple of times because what we believe is it shows us a bit of a framework for how Jesus believes his life should be modeled. And it's a life that we want to model as best we can. And again, Robin, I love that you're like, life has started in September. And so some of this you can just feel a little bit like, okay, how do I add this into everything else? I think Jesus kind of flips it and he says, you know what, it's not quite like that. We don't add extra things on to our busy lives when it comes to faith. In Luke 6:12-19, we read these 3 steps that Jesus took. And it says, verse 12, one of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray, and he spent the night praying to God. Our first, if you can't see that because you're on the far side, it says up. I'll get out of the way. Jesus spent the night praying. The first step in the passage, the first step in Jesus' life when it comes to who he is and how his life wants to go is he's got this amazing relationship with his Father. He's got this amazing relationship that he always, always carves out time for. He doesn't say, I'll tag that onto my busy schedule. He's like, I'm going to the mountainside. I'm going to jump in a boat. Jesus, in the Gospels, in the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, he's often sneaking away in the busiest times. And he's just like, yeah, I know that you all think I should be busy, but I need to be with my Father. So one of those days, he goes up in the mountainside. It's like any other day for the disciples. Where's Jesus gone? Did he go again? I wonder what he does up on the mountain, right? But he goes to pray. He goes to be with the Father. And then verse 13 says, when morning came, he called his disciples to him. We've talked about this before. Jesus has a group that is larger than 12. He had this big group of followers. Sometimes we call them followers in the Bible. Sometimes we call them disciples in the Bible. But he calls them all together. And from this bigger group, he chooses 12. And that's the in. He doesn't just keep with the big. He has relationship with the larger group, but he especially wants relationship with a group of people. Jesus models for us that it's good to not be selective, but it's good to know who your people are. It's good to journey with people in a more intimate way than just on Sundays, show up, like head off again after the day, because this is now too big to feel that connection that Jesus was all about in Scripture. So verse 12, verse 13, then verse 17, he went down with them. He went down with the disciples, and he stood in a level place. This is often where he goes to teach, these kind of level spaces or by the shore. And a large crowd of his disciples, this is the bigger group again, they were there, and together they ministered, and he healed them. He healed everyone who was coming and gathering, and he taught them. And this is the piece about the out. Jesus doesn't just love Sunday church. He doesn't just love us when we get in small groups and have relationship together. That's not just his vision for the people of God. He's like, no, have a fierce and strong focus on relationship with me. Have a fierce and strong relationship with one another. Like, really show up for each other. Be the church, but don't just stop. That's Jesus' life being expressed. This is the part that so often the church can kind of hold back on. When we're ready, when we're together, when there's no argument, then we're going to go and do evangelism. Then we're going to go and do some justice and some outreach. But it feels like Jesus, we know the disciples, those he calls, they're an imperfect bunch just like us. And he doesn't wait till they're perfect. He's like, come with me. Come with me. I want to show you my life. I want you to experience who I am. So this is our mission statement. This is Jesus' life. Jesus' life expressed. We are so keen as a church that this is simple. So that if someone says, what's your church all about? You could literally say, three things. We've got this focus. Our mission is that we've got this real laser focus on our times of worship, lifting up Jesus. We're laser focused on building his life into us, his people. And then we're hopefully laser focused on then reaching out in his love so that people are transformed. Each of these things, Jesus models for us real intentionality. That's hard when life gets busy. It really is. It's hard because the distractions of the day, I don't know about you, it's so easy to finish the day with what in your hand, right? It's so easy just to kind of I need to just relax. It's either this or it's the TV. And we're like, I just spent 30, 40 minutes looking at nothing. And then we're more tired for the next morning when we were planning to get up to spend time with Jesus, like he would have done, like going up to the mountainside to pray. And instead we wake up and we're like, okay. I think this is where we really shortchange ourselves. And I know for myself, this is a constant struggle. This is a constant thing where I need to say, Jesus, how is my up? how's my up? How's my relationship with you going? And just be really honest. And then if it's suffering, what is making it suffer? What is taking away from just being able to just be with Jesus? And then maybe how is my relationship with believers, with like my close people? Like, have I not seen them for a month? How is that going? And if there's something in there that I'm like, oh yeah, I've kind of like, it's been a month and I didn't even notice, then Jesus, what do you want me to do about developing close relationships with those so that I can be encouraged by them and so they can help me with my walk with Jesus? And then I find this a challenge. I think we all do. How is my relationship with those that God has put in my life? My neighbors, my work colleagues, sons, daughters, parents, whoever. How is my relationship? Am I giving time to be with them and love them and model Jesus' love for them? See, often we miss the importance, and we just love that Jesus is out teaching on the plain. We love that he's just standing and he's teaching and healing everyone. And we miss that before the works, and we focus so often on the works of Jesus, but we so miss the one. We miss Jesus and the way he did it. So I just want us, before you're like, September, let's start like 50 ministries, it's go time. If we do that, if you start your life with your parents, with your kids, just buzzing them around from experience, having had conversations with many folk, I think we miss the beauty of the one, of Jesus. And so I just want to encourage, think about your fall. Think about what your fall looks like. Think about Jesus carving out time and space to develop this relationship with his Father. Such is his desire to be in relationship with his Father that he takes responsibility for the other things that take time away from that. It's funny because the disciples often, they're like, Jesus, come on, there's a great opportunity. Jesus, come on, I just want you to talk to one more person. Jesus, come on, I know like you look like you're wanting to fall asleep standing up. Can you just come over here, Jesus? You see, the disciples, this is awesome. This is exciting. We took time off in the summer. We needed time off in the summer. And we felt some of the pull from some folks saying, where have you been? I have to die to that like people-pleasing part. I have to die to that like, I'll do one so that kind of keeps some folks happy. I get it. But you know what? It's so important that we model this and we do this together and we give each other permission not to be all together, but to say, yeah, come, focus on Jesus, have time with him. So the 12 apostles, this amazing group of guys that he chooses, then a wider group of followers, they are not perfect at this. They are not schooled at this. This is something that Jesus is teaching them. So if some of you are just straight out the gate and you're like, oh, Craig, but wait till you hear about my 6 a.m. devotion time. It's amazing. I said this last time. The only people who tell you how good their devotion time is are people who get up at 6 a.m., right? It's like, yes, or 5 a.m. It's like, yeah, I get up in the morning. I hear the birds sing. I see the sunrise. Some of us are just like 10 a.m. people, right? Some of us are just like, no way can I get up at 6 a.m. But here's the deal. A bit like a stool, I'm going to try my very best. People mock me for my drawings. I don't care. That is a stool. How many legs does it have altogether? Thank you so much. If you take one of these away, you're either going to fall over or you're just going to have to work extra hard at keeping yourself up. You see, we're called personally to model and do what Jesus did. And if ever there was anyone who needed that, it was actually Jesus. We think that Jesus could have skipped it. Oh, he would have had the strength. He would have had the spiritual depth. Well, we actually don't know, because what he seems to show us is something completely different to that. Some of us naturally we're like big people, it's our big ideas people. And so I'm going to draw this again. So we go up, in, out. Some of us naturally lean towards maybe a couple of these. So churches too. Some of us naturally lean towards certain areas. So some of us, we're in this kind of space here. We love coming to worship. We actually find our times with Jesus quite straightforward. We love that time. It's nourishing, it's good. And we love building relationships with one another. So can you guys see past that? So on this side, these are the uppers and inners. It's like, yeah, this is amazing. Like, it's all ticking along, and it's amazing. And then you got sometimes people who are like over here, up and in. You get this amazing focus and time with Jesus, and you build relationships with people outside the church really, really easily, and you're evangelizing, and you're there, but SBF is kind of rare for you. Like this church, the place that you've been rooted, you're not, like, you find better connection here than here. And then some of us are just here. It's all about relationship. It's all about relationship. And that's kind of the temptation for churches too. Some places can be really focused, like a good teaching center. We've got great Bible studies. And actually we miss the call of Jesus to mission. And some, I mean, I think if a church was over here, I would just call that a social club, really, honestly. If it didn't have a focus on Jesus, I would say just call it what it is. But for many, it's like there's no relationship, there's no community built, because they're so focused on evangelism that people know Jesus. And it's kind of like hit them hard and then kind of leave them alone. So as a church, we actually want to be all three. As a church, we want to say, let's grow in our relationship with Jesus. Let's grow in our relationships with one another. And then let's grow in our relationships with those that God has got us rooted next to and planted next to. Often that is your neighborhood. Often that is the network you belong to. And Young Life is a classic example, perfect example of this. It's a network that they minister in these three areas, lifting up Jesus because he's awesome. They want the young people in Young Life to know Jesus. They want amazing community in the life of their community. They want it to be a place to really belong to. But they're like, it's not just a cozy club for Christians. Everyone's welcome. And so for us as a church, for Young Life, hopefully for other communities and church communities, this is the thing we're trying to aim for. I was going to go through a list of here's the ways we can go about accomplishing it. Honestly, it's the first time it's ever happened. I had a different message prepared. And then this morning when I got up, I just felt God was like, revisit this. And I really don't want to just finish by saying here's a whole bunch of do's. Just now go and join a small group, although I think you should. Come to church. You know, the average church attendance in North America is 2 out of 5 Sundays. If we could even just be a people that make it 3 or 4 out of 5, that'd be awesome. I would know who your people are. I don't want to finish with tips of how to be like Jesus. The thing that I felt God stirring in my heart was, if you flick forward in Luke 24 with me, there's these 3 accounts that Jesus we'll wait till that goes off. There we go. There's three movements in the story of the resurrection. And as I was thinking about it this week, I was kind of imagining. So often I've thought about the 3 accounts with the resurrection. You know, Jesus has been resurrected, come back to life, and then the women go to the tomb. There's this feeling of they would just want proximity with Jesus. They're going to go and care for his body. And then there's the disciples, and they're kind of hunkered down in a room together, a little bit fearful for what's going on. And then there's these 2 people on the road to Emmaus, and they're kind of heading away from the direction of where the disciples are. We're not really sure where they're going, why they're going, but these three different movements all about the resurrection of Jesus. And what I found myself as I was praying about this week, what I found myself was thinking, it doesn't overlay perfectly, but I think this is the word to us today. That in the actions of the woman going to the tomb, it's like they just have to be with Jesus. We know that they're going to the tomb. They know he's dead. They don't know he's resurrected. He's come back to life. But that's where Jesus is. So imperfectly as they are going to the place where Jesus is. And there's something I just feel that for some of us, Jesus wants to say, I see that, and I just love that you're doing that. There's something brilliant, there's something powerful that imperfectly as you are, imperfectly as you're trying, maybe you're just like, I'm really trying, Craig, but things keep coming up and I keep being distracted, but Jesus sees that you're trying. And then there's this other group, and in Luke 24, verse 9, the woman came back from the tomb. They told all these things to the 11, that's the disciples. And it says who the women are: Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of Jesus, and the others with them. They told this to the apostles. Again, these words in the Bible interchange: apostles, the 11 disciples. These are those that Jesus had that special invitation to for relationship. And it says the women shared what they'd seen, but they didn't believe because it seemed like nonsense. And then Peter gets up and runs to the tomb. So imperfectly as they are doing, they haven't the death of Jesus was a kind of a trigger moment where all of a sudden the disciples' lives were at risk because they were his closest followers. And rather than scattering and running away, they didn't do that, but they did that. They stayed together as a group, and they were like, come, we're fearing for our lives. In John, it actually says the door was locked. So they were hiding, but they were together. They weren't sure what was going to happen. They were just like, let's just be together to just kind of, you can sense the trust. You can sense the willingness to follow Jesus, even when it seems completely ridiculous. Why are we together? It's over. Jesus is dead. But still they were together, right? Imperfectly, but powerful. And then the two on the road, it's vague. In Luke, it's really vague, and in the other parts of the Gospels, it's really vague. It's vague where Emmaus is. They don't actually know, is it 7 miles or 20 miles? Scholars are all kind of I don't really know. But they're going somewhere. And they're out on the road and they're leaving where the disciples were. I guess we could say where the action was. And again, as imperfectly as they are, they're on the road, on the journey somewhere, heading away from where maybe Jesus, the woman at the tomb, the disciples in this community. And there's a word in the text, and it says they were passionately discussing. It wasn't like they were forget it, let's just talk about the Rugby World Cup, which is on right now. My cousin texts me, Craig, Rugby World Cup is way better than church. He's not Christian, so I'm like, well, but I'll watch it later. So there's other things they could have been doing. There's other things. It's in the rearview mirror. Okay, we're wrong. No. They were passionately discussing, wrestling with what was happening. Did we miss this? No. So in each of these places, I wonder where we might identify. I think some of us are we're just doing everything we can to go and be with Jesus. And imperfectly as we may do that, you just feel, I'm trying my best. Maybe we're really digging in deep with relationship, like the disciples were, imperfectly, but we're trying our best. Maybe they're doubting and fearful, Jesus, I'm not sure what to believe anymore. But maybe some of us can be kind of pictured in a sense with these two, still wrestling with what's going on, but actually it kind of almost feels like you're turned away from where Jesus wants you. And you know what the word that I felt God saying is, I think he's okay where you are with your feelings, with your emotions. And the thing that I feel that more than anything that he was saying is, Craig, I came to each of them. I came to each of these people. Jesus, in other parts of the Gospels, it talks about Jesus showing up and revealing himself to the woman. Jesus showing up to the disciples in other contexts saying, it's me. And then, as we know, he shows up to these two on the road as they're walking and walks with them, discusses with them. So we can have a lot of emotion. We can have a lot of feelings. We can have a lot of views of how we as a church should be operating and thinking. 2 services, is it right? Is it wrong? We should be doing more of this. We should be doing more of that. And I think we can almost be like, yeah, sometimes I feel him here. Sometimes I feel him there. Sometimes I feel him here. It doesn't matter, because in every place, Jesus comes to you. And he shows up. Sometimes when we least deserve it. And he shows up and he's like, I'll never stop coming to you. It's who I am. It's my very nature that I will show up. And I just want, church, us to know today, it is not about, goodness me, it's not about how we're going to lead through the fall. Will we get things wrong? Yes. Unquestionably, things will be dropped. Balls will, plates will fall. There's going to be some amount of mess. But sometimes we're so focused on the works of Jesus, the things we do as a church, that we forget the one who keeps us all together, the one who comes to us. Rich Villodas, he's the lead pastor of New Life Fellowship Church in Queens. That's in New York. Pete Scazzero was the founding pastor of that church, and Rich took over. This is his book. It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant book. He says, as I think about the future of Christianity, in our world, I'm convinced that followers of Jesus have a great opportunity before us. And he says, the way the world continues to swallow people in its pace, hostility, distractions, and shallowness. And he says this, having the right answers to the questions of faith is helpful, but it won't do much to form us in the way of Jesus, simply by having the right answers. He says we need more than answers found in our arguments. And he says we need answers found in our very lives. You see, people are looking. People are desperately searching. And so often we want to have the right thing to say. But I think church history has shown us that people are drawn to the person of Jesus, not just knowledge about Jesus. We need answers found in our very lives. So I just want to say, come to him. Come to Jesus and just enjoy his presence. When I think of, I'm not going to confess all this today to you, but I can think of times where just imperfectly I was like, Jesus, I'm just going to go, but I've got huge doubt, huge fear about what I'm going to find when I get there. Like, was I right? Are you going to do this, or are you not going to do this? And yet still, the temptation is not to go, but Jesus, I want to be there. Sometimes people just wind us up, right? Sometimes, and unfortunately, this is the nature of the church. Jesus is continually sorting out problems with the disciples and the followers. Hey, come on, let's stop racing to the tomb to be first, John. There's lots of things we naturally do, and Jesus is so committed to us that he comes into the middle of it all. And then sometimes we kind of go, you know what? Someone else will share the good news of Jesus. It's not for me. And the one thing that I know a lot of people have said is, we've grown more than doubled in a year. And a lot of folk are saying, well, it's mainly Christian folk. And that's true. A lot of people have moved to the area. Some other folks have joined us from other places. But my fear in not moving to 2 services all along has actually been this. It's actually not this. Because I think when we take a decision to stay as we are and actually have no space for people who we're hopefully inviting to church. We're inviting to see and experience Jesus' life. It's not just that there's no space in the building. Sometimes I worry there's no space in our hearts. And that for me is a huge challenge. A huge challenge. We want to be a people who passionately love Jesus. This is who we are as a church. Who passionately love Jesus. Who build loving relationships with one another. And we're there for one another. We support one another. We deal with each other's imperfections. But who are equally as committed to reaching out to those who need Jesus. And we know who those folks are. That's kind of what we're about. He's calling us to disciple people to become him. To become like him. Why don't you stand with me? And we're just going to take a moment to pause. We're going to finish up the service in a second here. Why don't you stand? We're just going to pause. Worship team are going to come and we're going to finish by singing together. We're going to finish by just coming and bringing our hearts to Jesus. But before we do that, I just want to give an invitation for us personally, individually, just to allow him to meet us. To allow him into all the imperfection places, all the places that aren't fully there. And I want you to just know that Jesus doesn't come to judge. He comes to love and help us move from that place. So just take a minute, close your eyes, just so there's no distractions. And if you need to put your hands out in front of you, sometimes it's just a helpful posture to kind of remind ourselves that we can't do it by ourselves, that we need God to help us, to give us the help we need. So we just say, Holy Spirit, come, Holy Spirit.